No worries. I can cut it, chop it, do whatever later. And now I'm going to go ahead and send it live, and it takes a couple minutes to connect. I just learned how to do this. I'm so excited. I'm also going to put these on YouTube. I'm trying to build a YouTube channel with them.
Great. Yeah, I'll share those too.
Yeah, all the ones from the previous years are on there, but we'll just have to have them back on. Now, let me check over here. I always come in, you know, like they catch me with my mouth open and my head turned. I think for a lot. It's still cold. You see it?
So I'm waiting to see it pop up on the Written Apocalypse page.
Yeah. What it's doing, it still says it's preparing. Oh, it's still figuring this out.
Sure.
I don't know what it says it's live streaming. Just if I can get some feedback. Somebody message me if you can see this. That'd be great. Let me try and restart the live stream.
Sure.
There we go. Okay. Hold on. Oh. There, I thought I had it all going on because I've done this like 4 times now. Okay. This should do it.
Okay.
Go live.
It says it's now streaming live on Facebook.
Woo! Now I know it has a delay. Yay, we're live. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and one of these days I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest because Lord knows I'm still trying to figure out how to make all this technology work. Someday, by the time I figure out this whole video thing, we'll be into a whole nother thing. We'll be doing holograms or something. But you have to bear with me. Tonight we have live Tom Abrahams on the Written Apocalypse. We're super excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dee. It's great to be part of your podcast and get to talk to some of your listeners and viewers about preparedness and about books and whatever else they want to talk about.
Yes, we're super excited. Now you just, didn't you just release a book?
So I had a book come out 2 days ago. It's the second book in a series. The first book, Unprepared, came out 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, and then book 2, Adrift, came out yesterday, and then book 3 will be out in less than 3 weeks.
Woo, you busy. You're
I am busy.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you want to, we want everybody to go and find this book. So do you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Sure. So I wrote a series called The Traveler, which started in, I think released book 1, Home, in December of 2015. And that 8-book series begins 5 years after what I call the Scourge, a global pandemic, a viral plague that wipes out 2/3 of the world's population. So anything that had to do with the inception of the pandemic is told in flashbacks in that series. And so I decided to go back and tell the origins of the spread of the pandemic, but set it, in the early days with a different cast of characters in a different location. The Traveler series takes place in Texas. The Scourge series takes place in Florida for the most part. But as the series progresses, you see more and more connections to the Traveler series. Some of the characters, some of the plot lines begin to merge. But unlike a almost cartoonish superhero in Marcus Battle, who's the protagonist of the Traveler series, he was super prepared. He was living off the grid. He was able to handle, he thought, what came at him. This follows a group of people who are totally unprepared. They've never really thought much about what it would be like to live in the midst of a pandemic. So it's a totally different approach to the story.
Wow, that sounds really, I love it when we get characters that have no clue what they're doing. So can I ask now, I don't know if everybody knows what you do for a living, but why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about yourself? Because I have a loaded question.
Sure. So you want to know what my day job is?
What's your day job?
Sure. I'm a television reporter and anchor. I've done it for almost 30 years now. The last more than 20 in Houston. I work for one of the big 3 affiliates here. I cover politics. I've traveled all over the world, covering a variety of stories about the economy, about the energy industry, about the space industry. And so a lot of my writing, my night job or very early morning job, comes from some of those experiences and places that I've traveled.
Wow, that must be kind of fun. You're kind of like a celebrity on your show every day, I guess.
Hardly.
what started you writing post-apocalyptic fiction? I mean, why post-apocalyptic?
Sure. So I've always been a reader and a writer. I've always loved Westerns, especially. And a friend of mine, a writer most of you probably know, Steve Konkoly, who wrote The Jakarta Pandemic, The Perseid Collapse, and a host of other very successful novels. He had a Kindle Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
He had a world when Kindle World was a program where you could essentially write fan fiction in somebody else's world, and it was licensed to Amazon. And he asked if I would contribute. I'd written political and action adventure up to that point. And so I wrote three novellas, and which are now the novel Pilgrimage. And those three novellas very loosely followed what happens in the Jakarta pandemic, or in the Perseid Collapse series, actually. And so I had a new cast of characters, and the series did very well. And so as a result of that, Steve kind of prodded me, you should really write something. You should really write something. So I kind of took this postmodern Western approach to the first book, and launched it with really not much in the way of expectations. And it took off, and it reached the top 100 of all the books on Amazon. It stayed there for quite some time. And it really just kind of changed my writing career almost overnight. And so then I began sticking with that genre. But in each of my series, I've tried to do something a little different, where I'm not writing the same story every time. Mm-hmm. I wrote a pandemic, and then I wrote the Spaceman series, which was about a coronal mass ejection. And the protagonist is a character who's stuck on the ISS. He's an astronaut. When the power goes out, tells his story and the story of his family stuck back on Earth. And then I did the Altapocalypse series, which was a series where the same characters experience different apocalyptic events in each of the books. And those storylines are very loosely connected. And you will eventually, when I finish the series, find out at the end how they're all connected. So I try to do something a little different in each of the series that I write, just for me, as much as I want to make it fresh and exciting for my readers, so they don't feel like they're reading a retread of what I wrote before.
Yeah, I like that. That's something that I'm doing with my latest series. Each and every one of them follow, basically the same idea, but every last one of them is standalone. It has different characters, different events, everything. And so it's just a different. But in some cases now, like you were saying with your last book, that your people were not at all prepared. Now, some in mind, some are prepared, some are not prepared, some are a little prepared. So with today's climate now, how does, I guess, preparedness and stuff like that play in with post-apocalyptic fiction? And what do you think the reader gets out of that from the preparedness standpoint?
Well, I hope that maybe the ideas begin to spark in their head about what they can do in their own lives to be prepared, because it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It can be something as simple as you lose power from a thunderstorm for 3 days, or they can't get to you for a week. So what do you do if you don't have power for a week? It could be something as simple as a hurricane that is coming. You need to be prepared for the possibility of not having either power or potable water. It doesn't have to be a pandemic for you to be prepared. And living on the Gulf Coast, which I have for most of my adult life, either in Florida or here in Texas, we've always been somewhat prepared. We have a generator, we get extra bottles of water, and we have extra canned goods, during the hurricane season. But when I began to write these books, we shifted our approach. We all now have bug out bags in our cars, both my kids and the two of us. We have, 3 days worth of water packets, 3 days worth of food, because you never know what's going to happen. And in this case, we're bugging in. So we have plenty of stuff to get us through. And I hope in the stories, to answer your question, that some of the characters either do something that initiates preparedness in a reader, or that someone doesn't do something. And when someone says, God, I'm just like that, I don't want to be caught like that character. I need to be prepared in my own life. And thankfully, I've heard from a lot of readers, surprisingly, actually, who at the onset of COVID-19 sent me notes telling me how much they appreciated the Traveler series because it got them thinking about preparedness, and they're okay because they followed some of the lessons in that book, which wasn't necessarily my intention when I wrote the book, but now I think about it when I write.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I walked that path. I actually started out with a podcast, doing preparedness stuff, and I do lectures and stuff like that. And I'm a huge fan of post-apocalyptic fiction, and that's kind of what got me. I'm just like, well, I could write this too. No, I couldn't. Seriously, no, I couldn't. I spent 4 years in school learning how, but I think I've kind of got the idea now, so I'm gonna keep on going with it. But beyond this series, do you have some more plans for what can people look forward to in 2020 for you?
Sure. So I have these 3 books: Unprepared, which was out 2 weeks ago; Adrift, which just came out this week. The 3rd book is called Grounded, and that comes out the end of this month, very beginning of June. And then at the same time, I'm also working on another series. It's dystopian fantasy. So there are post-apocalyptic elements to it, but there's a real twist as to who the characters are, and it really it's more philosophical about good versus evil. And that series is called The Watchers. Bar at the End of the World came out at the end of March. That's the 1st book. Awesome cover. The book is published by Athon Books. And the audio was produced by Audible Studios with Hall of Fame narrator Jonathan Davis, who does a fantastic job with the series. Book 2, Bar at the Edge of the Sea, comes out the end of June. And then book 3, which I'm writing now, Bar in the Middle of Nowhere, comes out September, October. And all 3 books, while they build on each other, they're all standalone adventures or stories. There are no real cliffhangers like in a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction. And I do this. There are cliffhangers, that make you want to get the next book. And each of these stories is individual in the way they're told, but it's different. It's not straight up post-apocalyptic. It's kind of a mashup between dystopian fiction and fantasy. And there's a real, I would say, I don't know, I guess a real undertone of faith and what you believe about good and evil. So
we have a question here from David Simpson. He wants to know if you have a Superbird.
No, I don't have a Superbird. I wish I could. I don't. If I had a Superbird, I wouldn't have a day job because those cars are like $3 million right now. But my first car was a Pontiac. It was a '76 Pontiac Le Mans. It had a V8, had that cool V-shaped hood. And it was a hand-me-down from my dad. I was lucky to have a car. So I've always liked Pontiacs. But this is a Plymouth Superbird. And I love the fin on the spoiler on the back of that car. It's so unique. Surprisingly, Dee, I've caught a lot of flack for that car being on the cover of the book because people suggest, how could someone have a $3 million car in the post-apocalypse? Of course, somebody has a muscle car when there's no gas, all these things. And if they read the book, they would know that that's not exactly how it all works. But
my first car was
so no, I wish I had a Superbird. I wish I could afford a Superbird.
Yeah, I know, huh?
Great car.
Absolutely. Is there one place that everybody can,
but
is there one place that everybody can get a hold of your
one place everybody
books?
can go to? Yeah, so my website is tomabramsbooks.com, and it's spelled TOMABRAHAMS books.com. So it's Tom and then Abrahamsbooks.com. And you can also find everything on Amazon. You just type my name into Amazon, and you type The Traveler into Amazon, and my page will pop up. Right now I have everything except for, there are a couple, most everything is exclusive to Amazon. There are some hardcovers and paperbacks that you can find elsewhere.
I was looking to see if we had any other questions yet. Come on, people, ask some questions. Let's go. I do research for my books because, I mean, I'm a prepper. I run Prepper Podcast, but I don't know everything. So sometimes I have to look stuff up, like, is there an outward physical appearance to cannibalism? I mean, who doesn't want that information, right? My Google search history might raise eyebrows. How about you?
Oh, definitely. I think in part, I started off writing, my first couple books were political thrillers that involved terrorism. And so yes, and between that and, I don't want to be too gruesome, but the things I've looked up, certainly if, would have me on a watch list if they didn't realize what I do for a living.
Yeah, you
But
want to throw a disclaimer out there.
Exactly.
I'm a writer.
Right. I make things up for a living. So.
David asks, what's your writing schedule like?
Sure. So I try to write anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 words a week, which has been really challenging during this pandemic. Our daughter's home from college. My son is online learning. He's a junior in high school. And so I find myself kind of wanting to spend time with them, and I'm not as disciplined as I should be. So my output is dropped a little bit, but I try to write in the morning. My day job has me working. I work weekends in the evening, Saturday and Sunday nights, and I work Monday through Wednesday days. So I try to get some writing done in the morning before I go to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I try to write in the morning before I go to work Saturday, Sunday, but the big days are my days off. I try to get the bulk of what I'm doing done on those days. And I've, my least successful day would be 500 words. My most successful day might be 6,000, but that's like when I'm towards the end of a book and I'm really grinding. But on average, I might get 2,500 words done on a Thursday, 2,500 done on a Friday. So, but I try to write every day.
Yeah, that's the key. You gotta, anything, just some kind of words, you gotta get them out there. Even if you trash it, you still gotta get it out there. We have another question from Kevin. Kevin Middleton wants to know how many more books on the Traveler series do you expect to write?
Sure. So, hi, Kevin. I know that you travel a lot, and I hope you're safe on the roads. I appreciate you joining us. So I'm not planning any more books in the Traveler series. Marcus's story has been told. I'll put this out in the universe just because one of my fans was talking to me about a way to bring back Marcus. And that would be that if I wrote a story that took place during the early days of the Scourge before we meet Marcus, like what was he doing in the 5 years between the onset of the Scourge, when he lost his family, and when we meet him, at the very beginning of Home, book 1. There's that outside possibility, but it's not something that I have planned. It's not on my schedule for 2020 or 2021 right now. People always ask me for more of those books, but I'll admit, with each successive book, the audience diminishes just a little bit. And so I have to put my kids through college. And so I think about what new stories are people going to want to read? And so that's why I'm always changing it a little bit. Originally, The Traveler was only supposed to be 3 books, and the demand was there that I kept writing, but I think we're done.
But somehow they just keep going.
Right. Well, yeah. When you keep getting emails and messages from people asking for more, it's hard to just say no.
Yep. Like now.
Right.
Susan asks, Bar World is so different from the Traveler series. Where did the original idea for the storyline come from?
Sure. So my original idea, and you'll notice in the early pages of that book, it kind of reads like Mad Max a little bit, right? And so I had this idea that there was this place in the middle of nowhere, in a post-apocalyptic world where people would go for refuge. And then the story evolved from there. But that's where it started, with this kind of bar, or it's called a cantina in the series, just literally in the middle of a wasteland. And people would show up there, and from there they would help each other. And that was the genesis of the book. And then as I began to plot it out, all these other little things developed. And the big twist in the book, which comes 2/3 of the way through the story and turns the whole thing on its head, came to me as I was writing the first few pages. I thought, what if this was the case?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the real twist developed. But I wanted to do something different. I'm always trying to, because I like writing. And so I certainly like making a profit, but I don't do it just to sell books. I do it because it's a creative outlet for me.
Yeah.
And I always want to push myself. And I should have continued to write traveler books after book 3. I should have just kept going. But I needed, for my own creativity, I needed something different. So I wrote Spaceman, and probably cost myself a lot of money by not continuing that series right away. But I do it because I want to, for me, and because I want my fans, however many there are, to always experience something a little bit different. So they know, hey, that's a Tom Abrams book, but I haven't seen him do that before.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Ronnie Barber wants to know what authors you read.
Good question. So my first love, as far as an author was concerned, I think as an adult, was Michael Crichton. Just loved his mix of fact
Mm-hmm.
and fantasy, and the science fiction with the science reality. Just absolutely loved it. Now, so Mark Cameron, Nicholas Sainsbury Smith. Of course, I read everything Steve Conkley puts out. Jack Carr. He's writing these techno thrillers, which are just fantastic. His most recent put him on the New York Times bestseller list. He wrote his first book, The Terminal List, was awesome. Who else? I mean, a lot of my friends in the genre, I read Franklin Horton's books. Emily St. John Mandel, she wrote Station 11. I listened to her new book, Glass Hotel. It's fantastic. Michael Connolly, I'm on book 8 or 9 of his Bosch series. Yeah, so I switch it up. I just listened to, I think, Ben Winters, The Last Policeman. So I'm always, switching things around.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty good selection. I like reading a lot of different stuff.
But that's a great question.
It is. Well, I have another question that is on that same lines, only different. We have a lot of people in the Written Apocalypse group that try their hand at writing. As the owner of Angry Eagle Publishing, I really pull people in to try to mentor them and give them the opportunity to get stories out there and stuff. This question comes from one of the people who have been writing for the next anthology. Her name is Rachel. She's also an essential worker, so she has been on the front lines. She works in a hospital. She's a nurse. And during all this time, she's been writing. And she's very excited about it. She wrote me the short story for the anthology, but she just kept on going with it. Now, just to throw that out there, Rachel, I just threw you under the bus, girlfriend. But she has asked every author she can find a multitude of questions. And this one here is really good. She wants to know, how many books did you write in a year when you first started writing?
That's a really good question. Before I answer that, first of all, thank you, Rachel, for what you're doing for your community. I have a lot of friends in the medical community who are sacrificing a lot to protect all of us. And so thank you for what you're doing, first of all. And to think that you're actually writing books on top of the exhausting work that you're doing is pretty incredible. So my first book I wrote, I call it my practice novel because it'll never see the light of day. I wrote in my late 20s, and it took me over 3 years to write. And then I started and stopped over the next few years. I started and stopped 5 or 6 different books, and I just couldn't find the right story. The first novel that I completed that ended up getting published was Sedition. It's a political thriller, conspiracy thriller. And it took me almost 3 years to write. Then the next book took me 18 months. And the next book took me 9 months. And now 3 or 4 months is pretty typical. Sometimes maybe 5. But at first, I wasn't writing 1 book a year. I was writing, I wasn't disciplined enough. And so I would write in chunks, and I wouldn't write every day. And so if you're already asking that question and you're new to it and you want to know how many are you putting out, that's fantastic, because you're clearly thinking about not just from a writing perspective, from a business perspective, because the truth of the matter is, and Dee, I know you know this, that the landscape is such that you have to produce.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't produce quality, but you have to produce consistently. Otherwise, people go find someone else. It's just how it is.
They will wander off.
Hopefully that answered your question, Rachel. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. She hasn't said anything yet. I'm sure she will. So you have 2 children, one in high school and one in college. What do they think, like your family and stuff, what do they think about your post-apocalyptic fiction? Obviously, they carry your post-apocalyptic fiction and all of that. So they carry their bug out bags, as you said before. So they are on board with everything with you. Are they helpful? Do they help you write? Give you ideas, inspire you?
Oh yeah. I mean, my whole family, it's unbelievable, because my day job is pretty demanding and my schedule is like, I never really have a day off from my day job. And so the fact that they give me the time to write on my days off is just, it's phenomenal. And so they're all incredibly supportive. They give me the space and the time to do it. They give me ideas and concepts. They tell me if an idea or a name that I'm using for a character is stupid. They're not, they're my biggest fans, and also, my best critics in terms of the way things work. But they're totally on board with everything. And it's funny, I think I said something to my son, this is a few years ago when we were starting to accrue the bug out bags. And I made a comment to him about how much he liked getting this, this preparedness stuff. And he goes, no, I just like putting things in bags. But they all get it, and they all appreciate, because it's not cheap to prepare, right? And you have to do it over a period of time. So they understand, I wouldn't say it's a sacrifice, but they understand the investment that we're making in their safety and in their future.
Rachel says, thank you for the answer, and thanks for the shout out. It really made her week. Rachel.
Sure, no problem.
Speaking of preparedness and everything that's going on right now, how did this whole situation that we find ourselves in today affect you? Did you have to book it to the store for some TP?
We were ready. So I'll be honest. I mean, even though I'm the one who writes preparedness fiction or post-apocalyptic fiction, my wife is the one who first really started paying attention to this. And she said in early January, this is different. Mm-hmm. And so we did a lot of things to get ready. We got our financial stuff prepared. We made sure that we had no issue with masks or toilet paper or canned food or hand sanitizer, none of that, because we were ready for it. In large part because my wife was just devouring everything about this and said, this is going to come here. We should be ready. So we finished the preps from our bug out bags. We have a and we have a bin out in our garage that is filled with, like powdered milk and rice and beans and things that are long term. And then we have those buckets, that have the dried food. You just add water. We have, extra bottles of bleach. I mean, we really have not. We've replenished stuff as we've used it, but we've not panicked about anything. Just as we see things, we'll buy it. I bought some more KN95 masks the other day just to have them, even if we don't need them for this. You never know when you will. So,
Well, I've had to use some of mine because I just got over pneumonia back in December. So I actually went to 20 Books. It's a 20 Books convention with pneumonia. And so my doctor is very adamant that I absolutely must wear the mask when I go out. So, I've dipped into it, but I had a very large stack of them. So we've dipped into it though. And so something that people are saying, and trying to avoid the whole, speculation and all that. Something that people are saying though is that we may see a resurgence of this issue. We've kind of leveled off at this point, and they're going to start letting people out of their houses and stuff. They should probably not let me out. I might have gone weird by now, but they're saying that we might see a resurgence. Can you offer any words of wisdom for the people who may have barely gotten by, may have some thoughts on the possibilities for the future moving forward, and how you might address them?
Sure. And correct me if I'm not answering your question correctly, but I think you're asking about being prepared the next time, if there is a next time, with COVID-19. And
or even just steps, the way that people should feel about it, or just your thoughts.
So put the political stuff aside. You have to do what you think is best for your family. And for some people, that involves going out without masks and living as close to a normal life as you did before all of this. For some people, it means staying inside, sheltering in place, or self-quarantine, or isolation, however you want to call it. For others, it means a mix of that, going out only when you have to, wearing masks, wearing gloves. I think, regardless of what you do, if you do what's best for you and you follow the guidelines of the local health authorities and your local government, you're going to be fine. As far as a resurgence, I think the concern is if this surges again in the winter during the flu season, it's not so much that COVID will be any worse than it was this time. It's that you then have the combination of that with the flu and then the availability of hospital beds. I would say you can't worry about that. You can't worry about things you can't control. What you can control is how you live your life on a day-to-day basis. What you can control is whether or not you're prepared. And it's never too late to prepare. So as you see that you're going to need certain things, you've already learned what you didn't do right this time. So now you can learn from that and do things a little differently. You'll also know the things you did do right. How were you best prepared? Like, what things did you do that you found, man, I'm glad I did that. And so that's something you repeat. It is never too late to be prepared, right? Or I should say this, it's never too early to get prepared for the next time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can always wonder if you were too early. You'll always know if you were too late. And so if you're finding now, we're through this and my state is opening up, I don't really need masks right now. I don't really need toilet paper right now. I don't need bleach right now. Well, that's fine. No problem. Go ahead and get it for when you need it next time.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean hoard it, right? You don't have to be one of those people who take too much or more and then that, but you just enough to make sure that you can get by for a period of time without going outdoors or relying on the supply chain.
Well, I think that the key to preparedness is actually not having to run out and grab it, but when I go to the grocery store, even now, whether I need stuff or not, I will catch a sale tuna on sale, or laundry soap is on sale, or bleach is on sale, whatever, stores well, or, you can pick up relatively cheaply. That's the key, is to pick it up long before you ever need it.
Yeah,
And
I agree. I mean, I was at the store, with my day job, I have to go out and interact with people. And so I'm the one who goes into the stores, and the rest of my family stays at home. So I was in the store and I saw that they had these large bottles, like $16 or $17 bottles of hand sanitizer. We didn't need it. We've probably got 2 months worth of it. Easy. But I
Mhm.
figured, it's here. I'll buy it now. And then that way I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think
Right.
that's just a good approach to take.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And something that I always put out there is education and learning. You can always learn something, or being educated in things is always a good way to feel comfortable about them, as a matter of fact. And um, do you have any skills that you have acquired to, here's, I just stutter along through this. For some reason, it's like stuck in my brain. I can't get it out. Um, with where skills are concerned, do you have, like, some people either with reload, or somebody cans or gardens or something? Do y'all have, your chosen skills that you find are uniquely suited to the apocalypse?
Well, the joke that I always tell is that I'm a journalist, and so I have no discernible skills. But my wife has a really good green thumb, and but as far as canning or candle making or things like that, we haven't gotten to that phase yet. We rely essentially on third party vending for all of that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's
Well, we also live in suburbia.
mhm.
I think our long-term goal is to have property somewhere where we can be off the grid and have more control over the food that we produce ourselves. For years, my wife gardened in a community garden. So, I mean, I think if push came to shove, we'd be okay. We have seeds. I mean, we do have a lot of seeds, so that if we had to start producing our own food, we could. Um, but as far as what so many of my readers do, and what I know your readers and fans of the genre do, I don't rise to the level of their expertise in many of those things.
Well, everybody, I think, has a skill or a gift that they can rely on. And I've talked about it over and over and over again in other podcasts, where you talk about the lone wolf syndrome. The guy's like, I'm going to go do it all by myself. Um, and so often in post-apocalyptic fiction, we end up writing a community of people, because I think that many people realize that one person alone, none of us are Jeremiah Johnson, thank you. We aren't going to make it out there. The wolf is going to eat us. But as we come down to the bottom of this hour, can you tell the listeners once again, because remember, this is also going to be posted on Prepper Podcast. So
Sure.
if you'll tell the listeners once again where they can find you and get a hold of these books. I can't recommend them enough. It's excellent, excellent. I haven't read that many, I'm sorry to say.
That's fine.
I do love Marcus Battle. I'm the one book person. I have to read everybody's books. So I've got one
Sure.
here and one here and one here. And I'm going to get to the others. My Kindle is overflowing. So I guess I'm going to have to. But can you tell them where they can find you?
Sure. So my website is tomabramsbooks.com, TOMABRAHAMS just books.com. So tomabramsbooks.com, and Abrams is spelled like Abraham's. You can also go to Amazon and type in my name, or type in The Traveler, and you'll see it come up. on Amazon, and all my books are listed on Amazon. Same on Audible. You can do the same. You can do the same on iTunes, and you'll get all my audiobooks. And then you can also email me. I respond to all of my emails, tom@pitonpress.com. And it's Tom, T-O-M, at pitonpress.com, pitonpress.com.
Awesome. I wrote it down. I'll be able to put it in the show notes so that people will be able to find them. Are there any last things that you'd like to share?
Good question. I mean, if anybody else has questions, I'm happy to answer anything. I mean, I'll just say that launching a series of books in the midst of a pandemic gave me pause. I wouldn't want anybody to think that I'm just trying to capitalize on what happened. It's not like I just started writing this and put it out there just because of what happened. I mean, this is based on a series on a pandemic that I conceived of in 2015, and book one was written last summer. So I'm sensitive to that. In fact, I was somewhat hesitant about promoting these books amidst all of this. And so I've also been cognizant of emailing those on my mailing list, occasionally just a note to say, how are you doing? Or I'm not selling anything. And a lot of people have responded with emails, long emails telling me how their lives are going. And so I encourage anybody to do that. I'm always happy to listen, whether it's here on Facebook, author Tom Abrams, or by reaching out to me on my email or subscribing to my email list and reaching me there. I always respond to readers, and I just want to know how you're doing. It doesn't, I feel like I build a relationship with the people who make the choice to read my books. I want it to be something where they feel like they're getting as much from me as I get from them, choosing among all the millions of books out there to pick one of mine.
I do have another question here. Deborah Buckley asked, do you have a number of books in mind for this new series?
So originally, right now it's just a 3-book series. I say that, but it's written like the Spaceman series, such that if I decide, if it's popular enough and enough people want to read it, I would write books 4, 5, and 6. But that just all depends on whether I don't want to write a story that, as much as I might enjoy writing it, I'd rather go explore something else unless fans are telling me, yeah, we want more of this. So right now I wrote it as 3 stories. I think if you read those 3, and whether you've read the Traveler series or not, I think it's a satisfying ending. But it's such that I certainly could keep going with it if the demand was there. But right now I've got other books planned.
Yes, don't we all? I have a big long list of them. Eventually I will get through them. Actually, I have a question for you. As a writer, do you write more than one book at a time?
So I'm sort of. I'll start 2 books at a time, but as I begin to really delve into one of them, I shelve the other one a little bit. So for example, when I was writing Bar 2, which comes out the end of June, and I was writing Adrift, I started writing those at the same time, and I got to about 20,000 words in Adrift, and I was at about the same point in Bar at the Edge of the Sea, and that plot is much more complicated. And so I even though I'm the same writer and it's the same style, the voice is different. And so I just found I couldn't do both of those. So I shelved one. Once the plot gets complicated, I'll shelve it. But I'm always writing a book, editing a book. Like I'm always dealing with multiple books at once. It's just hard for me to write 2 at the same time.
I'm writing like 6 books simultaneously.
I don't know how you do it.
Well, it depends on my mood, and it must be a girl thing, I suppose, because, my mood will be this or it'll be that, and I'll be all about writing this book or all about writing that one. And sometimes I'll just like get irritated with them or whatever, and I have to put them away for a little while, but I still love them. But if I don't put them away for a little while, I'm just going to get ticked off, kill everybody off, and write the end. So I say that all the time. That's like my mantra, because if I don't put it up and go work on something else, I'm just gonna, like, oh yeah, you did. We're done. Moving on. Let's see. Just a comment from Susan. She says it's the perfect time to read. Reading while shut up inside. Always hear negative news reports. A new book to look for.
I will tell you, I was surprised. I mean, I went back and listened to Kevin Pierce. He narrates all of the Traveler books, the Spaceman books. He's narrating this new series, and I went back and I re-listened to Unprepared, and I was kind of surprised at all the stuff that I wrote about that actually is transpiring now in terms of the possibility of postponing an election, the issue with the economics, the issue with people not believing that what the government is telling them is actually true. So a lot of what transpires in the book is actually something we're kind of going through now. And it's kind of disconcerting. At the same time, it's not like I did a lot of research, but it is kind of disconcerting to see a lot of that stuff happening now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. I think personally, I was walking through the store and you can see stuff missing in sections of the store. There are empty shelves and stuff are only partially stocked shelves. And it makes us realize just how fragile our in-demand food supply system is. There's never more than 3 days worth of food in the grocery store. And people who think that they have a big back room are mistaken. There's a few items out back, but besides that, everything is ordered on a daily basis. And I have friends also that are truckers that say they're carrying half a truckload because they're having to bring it so often. They're still only carrying like a half a truckload because the people at the warehouses aren't working, or they've cut down to half staff to maintain the distance. And so it's really having an effect on the production of products as well. So when I'm walking through the store, I find it really surreal. And I just wrote about it actually in one of the books, where there wasn't some things that they needed, and they're looking around, and there's maybe a can of beans here, some pasta over there, but it's like walking down an aisle, some crazy TV show or something, and it's real life.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't feel real in a lot of ways, I think.
No.
And I think that has to do just with, we see this happen, in Asia before, people wearing masks and cities being shut down. We've never experienced anything like this in modern times. And so it doesn't feel real to a lot of people. And I think it's really exposed a lot of inefficiencies and between the haves and the have-nots, and the way that people interact on a daily basis. On my newscasts, when I anchor, I end every newscast now, and I didn't used to do this, but I end it with, I tell everybody, be safe and healthy and be kind to one another. And I think that's probably the most important thing you can do in terms of getting through this, is just thinking about what other people are going through, because you don't know what stresses they have in their lives, whether they've lost their jobs, or whether their kids have lost their jobs, or you don't have enough food and you're not sure where you're going to get it, or it's really stressful for a lot of different people in a lot of different ways that have nothing to do with whether or not they get the virus.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. And one other final thought would be, wash your hands, you filthy animal.
Exactly. Over and over and over again.
Yeah, I tell everybody that it's, the thing from Home Alone. The family is wash your hands instead. But, it's been great having you on, and we're coming down to almost 8:30 here. And I just wanted to thank you for joining us on the show. It's been an experience. It's been definitely wonderful getting the opportunity to talk to you and learn a little bit more about you. The one thing that I think that our listeners really, really appreciate and they really like is you know, they see your books out there, and sometimes they see you on Facebook. Um, but you know, to actually sit and get a chance to talk. I mean, they all know me. I just throw stuff out like word vomit. But a lot of people are, you know, kind of up in their ivory castle or whatever. And it's so nice to see that, you know, we're all just real people, just like everybody else is. And so that's a lot of fun. And it's been, you know, a real pleasure getting to chat with you because, you know, you're a TV anchor and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, there's a movie star. Not really. I'm not the Star Trek type. I drive a limo, so I've met plenty of movie stars. But you know, it's still just wonderful to be able to just chat and see how you are and see what you do.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to blather on for the better part of the last hour, and for getting to share, you know, my experiences writing and with preparedness and getting through this. And, you know, above anything else, whether people buy my books or anything else, I just hope that everybody's safe and healthy and that they get through this, and that that 2021 is a lot better than 2020 has been so far.
Well, I still have some hope for 2020. I mean, summer is coming, and I intend to go camping or something. I got to get out of this house. My cat might die. It's been really great to have you on, Tom. Thank you for joining us. And what was the name of the new book you just put out?
Sure. So the new series is called The Scourge. Unprepared is book 1. It came out 2 weeks ago. And Adrift. It's got a boat on the cover. And for the first time that I know of in post-apocalyptic fiction, chapter 1 begins with a shark attack.
Ooh. Oh, that sounds awesome. That is definitely a new one. Well, you have a great evening. Don't forget to wash your hands.
You too. Thanks again.
Good night, everyone. We are now off the live stream.
Thanks, Dee. I appreciate it. Hey, and whenever you have a release, please feel free to message me. I'm happy to share on Facebook or in my
I might. We just
group.
released. I got a new one coming next week.
Well, good. Send it to me. I'll make sure I share it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'll be linking your book in this on a post in the Written Apocalypse. So
thank you.
We'll throw it out there as well. And you know, that's the way I think that we all are able to thrive, is because, I mean, I can't write enough books to keep fans happy constantly. These people are like freaking sharks themselves. They devour one book after another. I can't possibly write enough to keep up with them.
Right.
So
no,
I love hanging out with others.
Yeah, and I found that the writing community is incredibly supportive, and that, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right. That's right. I love that saying. Are you going to Vegas?
Huh?
Are you going to Vegas in November?
No, I'm not. I wasn't planning on going anyway, but no. I think the next convention I've been to BoucherCon a couple of times. I'll probably go to NINC in St. Pete, maybe in 2021. I know a lot of people go to Vegas, and it's a lot of fun, and a lot of my author friends and my publisher are going to be there one of these days.
Yeah, well, I know Boyd's going to be there. I'm looking forward to. He had to leave early last year, so I didn't even get to hang out hardly at all. I was really looking forward to chatting with him. So I know he's going to be there, and a bunch of other people are going to be there. We have the best time. So it's really awesome. The support within the author community is just it's phenomenal. It's wonderful. I actually reached out to Chris Weatherman. He, you know, was not feeling well and having a struggle with his own publishing. He was trying to get like almost a shared universe going on with the Going Home series, and a lot of stuff got pushed off for him. So I reached out and I told him, hey, listen, I have a plethora of editors and everything else. You know, let me get my cover designer going. Let's get these people their books out there for you. And he was surprised, you know, because I just popped out of nowhere and said, hey, how you doing? How about I do this for you? And I think that's the thing. It's like pay it forward and give a hand down when people are struggling. And that's just kind of who I am anyway. But you know, it just when people do that and are that way with one another, I feel like it creates a community of people, not just, you know what I mean? I mean, we all hang out and talk to the people, and of course we want to sell our books and everything, but I have made the best friends within the writing community. People that I actually see in person. There are people nearby me here. Nancy doesn't live but half an hour from me, which was amazing. But I really appreciate all of you.
No, you too. And thanks for
and all
doing
that you
this.
do. Well, you have a great night. I'm going to go find me some TV. I'm tired of looking at this computer.
See you later.
Oh, I turned it off.